I'm going to show you a couple of different editing techniques. So these are building on that basic Photoshop skill that you have already started to develop. We're not going to forget about the cropping or the brightness or contrast or the saturation this week. We don't throw it all away. We build on top of these skills. So to get started, I have Photoshop open. I'm going to go ahead and open an image that I'm going to use for rule of thirds. So I am going to just click to open my image, and it's going to pull it up right away in this file. One thing to note, because the crop tool was the last tool that I used, Photoshop has already selected that for me. So I usually, as a habit, just move back to my directional arrows, my move keys, to make sure that I don't get thrown off when I try to do something else in Photoshop. What I'm going to do first, again, you can go through, quickly adjust the image, crop it. I'm going to actually do that really quickly just to emphasize that rule of thirds. So again, you can see literally with the grid line how that center of that cupcake is going through the third. I'm going to hit enter, and now it's cropped. For example, and I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see this. It's that last magnifying button on the bottom. I look over here. Oh my goodness. I have this pole that is on this image, and it's driving me crazy. One way to resolve that is a tool called the Spot Healing Brush. One thing on my menu, my toolbar doesn't automatically have the Spot Healing Brush on it. So if I can't find it, I can only search for it, or I can click these bottom, the dot, the 3 dots in a row, and it'll let me edit toolbar. I've already added it as a link on the bottom, so I can go ahead and click that. And you'll see I have this little tiny dot. I want to go ahead and make sure that it's on content aware, and I can sample all layers. Right now I only have the one image, but you'll notice this as you start to add effects on. This control at the top left, where there's a dot and a 23 under it for me right now, is how you're going to adjust the size of your brush. So I can, again, slide back and forth to make this bigger or smaller. This is how many pixels your brush is sampling from. So I don't want to make it too large. It kind of will backfire on me. It'll look really forced and faked. Try it at about 160 pixels for now. And all I'm doing is I'm sliding up, and I literally just drag it through. So let me show you one more time. If I ever want to undo what I just did, I go to Edit, Undo Spot Healing Brush. The pole is back there. What I might even do is zoom in just a little bit more, so I have lots and lots of clear sight for myself here. I'm going to go back to Spot Healing. I don't have to mess with the settings because I just did that. I'm going to go up. I'm going to drag it up. Boom. It's done a pretty good job. There's a couple things for me that I noticed, like with the snow here. I'm going to try and drag it up, get rid of it. Boom. So I don't have those little shadows anymore. That way, I'm going to get out of this tool. When I zoom out, let's go back to the zoom tool. And I do this. I can zoom out on my computer. I hit the option button and click, and it just lets me zoom out. It's done a pretty good job. You know, when I look at the entire image, I can't really tell there was a pole there. One thing, now I have this line of snow that's going to drive me crazy. So if I need to add something to my toolbar, I clicked on those 3 dots, I get this screen. Now, if there's something that's not on my toolbar, I can add it. So for this, I'm going to take the clone stamp tool, and I could drop and drag it, hit done, boom. Now when I click down, hold down on that right arrow, it's on here for me. Right now, I only have one layer, so I'm going to keep it on current layer. If you had other layers, this is something you'd want to be aware of and change. I'm going to leave it at normal. Everything else I'm not going to mess with right now. Again, the size of the brush, what pixels it's sampling from, are in this little drop down arrow. So depending on how large of an area I want, I'm gonna make this bigger or smaller. Again, I wouldn't sample too much outside the area you're working with. It gets a little obvious where you're making those marks. So here, okay, lost myself, I'll come back. go back to that clone stamp tool. How I use this one, on my computer, I use the option button, and you can see how I have this target. I click, and now wherever I use, it's gonna, like for example here, it's going to show me that exact image I sampled. So let's go undo, edit, undo, and then I can always step backwards if there's still something showing. So now, again, I don't like this line here. I'm gonna go ahead and choose some snow. So I've chosen a different target, and I'm gonna start just clicking over it to replace it. And you can see, as I get too close to the cupcake, it's starting to pick up that cupcake. So I'm going to go back to my sample here, and I'm going to reselect it and keep editing in. You can certainly see how I'm going to have to change samples as I continue forth. So here we're still going. Now I'm starting to get a little bit more texture in the snow, and I'm zooming in even further. You can see how pixelated it gets when you get really close. So instead of having just that pure white snow, I'm getting a little bit of texture. I chose a different sample. Again, I'm trying to make it seem relatively realistic. So I usually try and mix up the areas I'm sampling from. Then over here, right now it looks okay. I might go ahead. You can see there's just a tiny bit. If I zoom in all the way, I'm going to actually decrease the size of my brush. I'm going to select a new size, and I'm going to go over it one more time. When we zoom out, and I would maybe spend some time playing around with that. Now you can see you zoom all the way out. We're not printing this image. I'm not going to have to worry too much about it. And I've taken care of that pole and that line. How much of it you want to leave starts to become up to you. But again, that white pole was really distracting, so that's why I took that out. I'm actually going to break up the next part of this video. I also want to show you a couple of filters, how to apply those, and transforming the image into black and white. But there's a lot of content, so go ahead, pause here, practice this, and then when you're ready for the next video, go ahead and start the next video.